Good morning, peepettes. It's just your madman. I hope that everybody's well and good. Hopefully the weather will pick up a little bit as well. A quick thank you to everybody that likes, shares, subscribes, etc. It really helps. And I do read your comments. Even if I don't get back to everybody, I do read them at the very least. And I try to get back, but I'm just not that good at it. Right. So I'm going to ask a question. What the fuck is Hampshire police, particularly the ones in Southampton, think they're doing? You know, they're already under an immense amount of pressure due to their manhandling of Henry Novak when he'd been stabbed. The disbelievement and their entire character at that incident was just awful. Well, I'm not talking about that bit right now. I'm talking about the protests that happened on, I think, Tuesday night. And in particular, one incident that everybody will be aware of. That bloke that got a battering, he was sitting on a wall. And the police moved forward, trying to move the hostile crowd back. And apparently this bloke had got 13 pins in his right ankle. And he'd had an x-ray a few days before. So he couldn't jump off the wall quickly enough. And then we've all seen what happened. The coppers rag him. One of the police officers says, I'm going to queue up. Drag him into the middle of the road. And if you saw it on a film, you'd be like, oh, that's extreme. That's a bit silly. Nobody does that. But this was there. And it's, you know, real life. About 10 coppers jumped on him. Give him a good kicking. Battering him with their shields, which are only supposed to be used to protect themselves. And one copper was laying into him like fuck with knees and kicks and everything. There was punches being thrown. It turns out that the guy has been charged for hitting a police officer. He's been charged with that, yet he wasn't aggressive until, like, say, about 8 or 10 of them jumped him. Literally. It was feral. It was proper mobbed. And like I said, you would have thought that the Hampshire police would have dealt with things a little bit better than they did. Now, I'm not saying the crowd wasn't hostile. I'm not saying objects weren't thrown. But that's because they were demanding answers. And nothing was being clarified. So you can understand their frustration. You can understand the people's anger. You might not agree with the way it presented, but you can understand it. But for this bloke to be charged with assaulting an emergency worker, it just makes a laughing stock of everything. Something doesn't sit right with me about the whole case. The whole situation doesn't sit right. You know, I don't even know how to put it into words. But the fact that Vikram Dickwall or Digbar or whatever his name was they made the allegation of racism, knowing full well that he'd been stabbed, that he'd stabbed him 5 times. He had the video. He had Henry Novak's phone on him, and he'd been videoing everything. And it's just the whole thing from that instant to the officers attacking that bloke. Just you couldn't even put it in a movie script without people going, "Oh, that's a little bit far-fetched." I don't know. Something isn't right. Well, there's lots of things that isn't right, but it just smells like a setup. Almost, with the police's reaction, almost as if they... I don't know. Almost as if they wanted an incident so that they can lock people up, like they're fast-tracking people straight away, again. Keir Starmer's got this weird, shitty, shady plan going on. So I don't know. But yeah, if anybody can explain what must have been going through the minds of them police officers that attacked that bloke, please let me know. Yeah, otherwise, have a nice weekend. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, your neighbours, your elders, your relatives, anybody around your table, people that live with you, people that live far away. As always, if you see somebody in town, or your village or your city, wherever you are, looking a bit down, just give them a quick hello. Just be careful that you don't say hello to a Sikh carrying a kippan, but that's being judgmental, isn't it? And look after yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, so remember that. And last but not least, stay safe, stay proud, stay loud. Peace.